We find meaningful mountaintop experiences throughout the Bible, from Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat to Jesus on the Mount of Olives before his crucifixion. God shows his grace and power in high places. But for every mountain, there's a valley. We tend to forget that after every significant event on a mountain, people in the Bible face difficult times afterward. I'm Brent, and this is episode 54 of the Bible Unplugged. In this episode, we look at the role of mountains in the highs and lows of our walk with God. There is a lot to learn about our own spiritual journey in these stories. Please take a minute to look at the show notes for this episode at powerloveandmiracles.com. While you're there, check out my devotional series that I publish Monday through Friday. In the ancient world, mountains represented stability, permanence, and closeness to heaven. God's people worshipped on mountains. Pagans built shrines and altars on high places, believing their gods lived on those hilltops. In fact, mountains are mentioned over 550 times in the Bible. These aren't random backdrops in the stories. They're places of encounter and challenge. Some significant events in the Bible happened on mountains. What we don't usually consider is what happens after these mountaintop experiences. Many of the people in Scripture who met God on a mountain often had a difficult or tragic experience right after that. The pattern is unmistakable but easily overlooked. We experience the same pattern in our lives as well. What we can learn from these events in Scripture can help us grow closer to God today. There are 12 stories in the Bible that portray God working in a mighty way on a mountain. We'll discuss a few of them here, but I have a complete list in the show notes if you're interested. The first encounter we have on a mountain is Noah's Ark coming to rest on Mount Ararat after the flood. Noah built an altar to worship and sacrifice to God in response to bringing him, his family, and the animals through the flood. God then promised to never bring a flood like that again. As a side note, we think that Noah only carried 2 of each animal in the ark. God commanded Noah to take 7 pairs of clean animals, those appropriate for sacrifice, on the ark as well. What many of us don't realize is what happened afterwards. Noah planted a vineyard and got drunk from the wine he made. This led to a conflict that fractured Noah's family. Abraham had a similar experience. In Genesis chapter 22, God told Abraham to sacrifice his only son Isaac on Mount Moriah. This was a test of Abraham's commitment. Isaac, as we know, wasn't harmed in the making of the story. What we easily miss is what happened between Abraham and his wife Sarah after this event. Abraham ended up in Beersheba. In Genesis chapter 23, we find that Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron. Abraham and Sarah were 20 miles away from each other. This may indicate that they lived apart after the Isaac event. Moses receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai and then finding out that the people had turned their backs on God is a familiar mountain-to-valley experience. In episodes 5, 6, and 7 of the Bible Unplugged, we talked about Elijah's experience on Mount Carmel when he confronted the prophets of Baal. Immediately after this, Elijah fled in fear from Jezebel and suffered what we would call depression. Even in the New Testament, mountaintop experiences led to challenges. The Sermon on the Mount found in Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7 is the pinnacle, so to speak, of Jesus' teachings. What we miss is that Jesus faced growing opposition in Matthew chapters 8 through 12. Jesus prayed in agony on the Mount of Olives and submitted to his Father's will immediately before he was arrested and crucified. What do we learn from these stories? The pattern is unmistakable but meaningful. The mountaintop is a place where people encountered God. We have significant spiritual high moments with God as well. The valley experience was a place of proving and strengthening their faith after the encounter with God. It's easy to think that the valley experiences are there to tear us down after a spiritual high, but that's not the case. As with the people in the Bible, the spiritual high is preparation for the valley. God lifts us up so that when we come down, we can walk stronger and with deeper faith. What do we do with this? When you have a powerful experience with God, don't think about the possible low that could come next. That's defeatist thinking. Instead, know that God encounters you to teach you what you need for the next phase in your faith walk. In the highs and the lows, seek to learn, grow, then put into practice what God places in your heart. When you feel discouraged or defeated, look back at how God has helped you grow in your faith. Often, you'll see how God worked in you ahead of time to show His power and grace in and through you in the difficult times. In the powerful encounters, ask yourself, how can I carry this new revelation into my everyday life, and how will this strengthen my faith? God is preparing you to use your strengthened faith to help someone else who's in a difficult valley. Ask God this week to send you to someone who needs your help. God works in us and through us to help others see His power and love in a challenging world. I prepared a short devotional series on how to grow through difficult times, entitled, How Long, Lord? 7 Days of Spiritual Care in Discouraging Times. This is available at powerloveandmiracles.com under the Devotions tab. And yes, we've reached the end of this episode, but there's a lot more coming. I hope this has been helpful. If so, please take a minute to give this podcast a high rating and share it with someone you know. In the next few episodes, we'll contrast the experiences of the Apostle Peter with Cornelius, a Roman centurion who God used to challenge Peter's beliefs and faith. My prayer for you is that you will look for growth in the mountaintop experiences with God and carry your newfound faith into the valley below, where you will find others who need to know God's love. Have a blessed week. Just to let you know, all opinions are my own. If you agree, keep listening. If you don't, keep listening. You listen long enough, you're going to agree with something I say. All Bible quotations come from the World English Bible, which is a public domain work. Our show theme song is Awesome Call by Kevin MacLeod and is available under Creative Commons license. The content of this podcast is copyrighted 2025 by J. Brent Eaton, and this has been a Power, Love, and Miracles production.